Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to be talking about how I use PixieBrix to help me as a YouTube content creator. So, we're going to talk about a couple different use cases. There's two things that I use PixieBrix for. One is an announcement for when I'm going live, and another one is to create timestamps for my videos. So, I've got an accompanying blog post I'm going to link to that will walk through all the steps with this and show you screenshots. But if you want to see the flow of it and kind of have a walkthrough, this video is definitely going to be the way to go. So let's first of all start with my going live notification. If I go to my channel, whoop, if I go to my channel and I click over here on this button, I can customize a message. I'm making a PixieBrix video on YouTube. And I can post which channels I want to go to, hit share, and boom, it tweets that. Let's go see over here. Profile. You can see popped up right here. I'm making a PixieBrix video on YouTube, and it sends a link to my live page. I don't have anything actually live, so it just goes straight to my channel. But that's what that does. Notice I could have also checked for LinkedIn if I wanted to send something there. And boom, bada bing, done. I don't have to do anything else. It does all of that automatically. So previously what I was having to do when I was going live is copy the link to my live video, go over to Twitter, create a tweet, blah, 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 and then post it, close the tab. Not terribly time consuming, but time consuming enough that I kind of wanted to eliminate that or find a workaround if I could. So that's one way I use PixieBrix. So just to break down how that actually works, we're going to open up the inspector, head over to PixieBrix, and I actually have two different triggers that kind of work for this one. So the first one is two different extensions that work for this. So the first one is going live on YouTube. So I add a button, go over here, add button, and I selected, there was a microphone here. You'll see in the second extension that I actually hid the microphone because I don't use the voice search, but you'll go ahead and just click up there and select it and it'll pop up. I made sure this only showed on my specific channel because I didn't really want it happening everywhere else. So I specified that URL there. I changed the icon to be the send icon just because I thought that looked more like, oh, you're sending a social post. And then I chose start. I didn't really style anything down here in the template. It just kind of filled it in as need be. So that was all good to go. And then I added the modal brick. So this is that pop-up that you saw that asks me if I want to customize the message and what channels I want to post to. So that comes up over here. And to do that, I'm literally just using the show sidebar modal brick. And I think I named it, like post your message, gave it a form title. And then I added the field called message and just made it paragraph text. So it was, spacious enough on there. And then I gave it a default value so that way if I don't want to type any custom message, it at least shows something there. And then you can, do anything here you want with making it required or not. I made the submit button. I changed it to be share so it felt more of like a social posting tool. And then I also added a new field on here. I added two. I added one for LinkedIn and one for Twitter. And they're both pretty similar. They're both just named the channel. And they're a checkbox field, and I defaulted the value to true. So that way, I can, by default, they're set to true. I can check or uncheck whatever I want, determine which ones I want to send it to. So next, I add the open a new tab brick, and I called it go to Twitter just to help me understand what the step was, but it's just the open in a new tab brick. And I set this URL, which takes me directly to Twitter. And I'll show you the URL, takes me directly to the composed tweet where it brings up this input here. So you'll notice one other thing I did in here that I did with all the next several ones in here. Under the advanced options, I set the condition to be at form.twitter, which means it only executes if it's true. And since it's not actually, or like if I hadn't checked Twitter, this would not execute because form.twitter would not equal true because it's unchecked, so it would be false. So this is basically saying, hey, only do what's in this break if I checked Twitter in the box, which is great because that's how I can select which channels I want this to happen to. And then nextly, I say for this to happen in the current tab, but you'll see in the future ones we're basically saying, hey, okay, so remember how I started on the YouTube, but then I told you to create a new tab in Twitter. Now do all these things in that tab. And that's called, excuse me, that's called the target tab. So you'll see how that works in this next one. But just want to call out, we're going to be using the advanced options for the next one of these. All right, so the next brick we want is wait for a DOM element. And you can go ahead and grab this selector. If you look at the accompanying blog post, I typed these out so you can just copy and paste. But we got a great pro tip of looking for the ARIA labels because those are static and less likely to change. So pretty good selectors to use. Try to find them when you can. So I went ahead and grabbed that, and we're basically saying, hey, wait for this to load. And again, we're saying to only do this brick or only run this brick if form.twitter is true and to do it in the target tab. So basically, once again, that's just saying, hey, I know we started this in a tab. That would be the current tab where we were on YouTube. But then I told you to open a tab and I want you to do this thing in that target tab. So that's where we select that one. Next, we want to set the input value. And so that's literally just the set input value brick. And what you're going to do is copy the same thing you waited for in the DOM element. So if you end up using a different class, that's fine. But here you're waiting for whatever that is to load. And then once that loads, you're injecting it with form dot message, which is any custom message you made. And then I appended on the link to my YouTube channel here. So you can do the same thing. Notice this link, it's your channel /live. If you have a live scheduled or is happening, it will go straight to that live page. But since I don't, it just defaults straight to the channel. But you can see this is how the message looks. And once again, make sure you've got @form.twitter down here under your condition and the target tab as the target you want it to happen in. Next, we want to wait for a DOM element. We want to wait for basically this button to light up and be ready to go, which will happen after we inject the text. So this is the selector I used. Again, you can copy and paste it from the blog post. You may have to click around and see if it's a different selector on your end, but it should roughly work. We want to wait for that to load. And again, just remember to fill in these advanced options. And then add the simulated DOM event brick. And that's where we're saying, hey, that element I just told you to wait for, go ahead and click it once it's loaded. So just make sure the event is click and use the exact same selector that you used in the wait for DOM. And finally, once again, I'm going to keep saying it because as I was building this, I messed this up multiple times. So I'm going to make a reminder for you because it was hard for me to remember. So in these advanced options, make sure it says @form.twitter and target tab. And the next we added a wait sleep brick just for it to, give it a second to post before closing the tab. So just go ahead and add that in, put 0 for time, and remember your advanced options down here again. Then add the close browser tab brick. Nothing you need to do or configure in the top part here. It'll just close the tab, but we do want to specify we want it to happen in the target tab. And again, only if we have selected Twitter. So that's effectively how one channel works. You can see I also set it up with LinkedIn as well. Very similar steps. Here's the URL to go create a post. Again, only do it if @form.linkedin is true. In the target tab, if @form.linkedin is true, wait for this to load. Again, notice that ARIA label, waiting for that to pop up. And then set input value in that same area. Notice we do the exact same thing again. Form message is just saying whatever text we put in the message and then a link to the YouTube page. Once again, check your advanced options, wait for DOM element to load, and then once it does, click it. That's your post button, and then close the browser tab. And so this extension does all of those things. Once you click the button, it pops up with this post. It says demo. It accepts any sort of message you want here. You can say what channel to do it on. You're going to hit share. And it's going to open the page. It ran really quickly, but if you saw it, it opened the page, injected the tweet, and posted it, and then closed it. So, let's see. One more demo so you can see these both here. I'm going to delete these just because my followers might be a little confused by what's going on there. So that's easy. You can try this with other social channels if you prefer. I haven't tried it yet with Facebook or anything, but I assume it would work very similarly over there. And if you get stuck with it, feel free to give it a try and I'll I'll reach out to me if you've got any questions, and I'll try to help you walk through it. One other thing that I mentioned I added with this, just because, oh no, where did PixieBrix go? There we go. One other thing I mentioned is I have another trigger that hides the microphone button over here, because if you'll notice, let me go to another channel page just so you can see, what usually pops up over there. Let's see. Let's actually go to the PixieBrix page. Oh, so I actually turned it off for all of them, but you see the little, it's not showing the microphone because of the extension I'm about to show you, but there's a little button over here that instead of being a send button, it's a little microphone that lets you do a voice search. So here's how I turned that off. All I did was I added a new extension with the trigger, and I said on page load anywhere on youtube.com. I could have probably just said for it to do it on my channel, but I don't really use that microphone search at all, so it seemed fine. Anywhere on youtube.com, and I said to hide a specific element. So all I did was click that when it was visible. And so, yeah, basically finds that icon and it hides it. So, yeah, that's pretty simple. That's how I got rid of that, replaced that with this icon, and then it still says search with your voice, but I obviously know what that icon does. And so yeah, so that's super simple, and that's how I tweet to go live. And then my next extension that I have is if I go to manage videos over here. I did not know this until recently, but if you have shareable link, if you have in your description timestamps like this, like literally just 0:29, what are timestamps, etc., it will jump to that part of the video, which is super handy. And you'll see I'm probably going to do those with this video as well, that shows you, oh, here's what I'm talking about in this section, this section, this section. So if you're trying to follow along and you get stuck, you know exactly what to fast forward to. So they're pretty handy, and I found a way to make them with PixieBrix. Basically, let's go into here. Actually, let's go find one I haven't done just yet so I can show you. I have a bunch of them that I need to do, but let's say I'm in here. What I can do is I can watch through the video, and then when I get to a part where I'm like, oh, I know, this is a chapter, I can pause it, and I can do Command Q, and I naturally highlighted as my only command bar option, which is create chapters, hit enter. I can name it, let's see, chapter 1. I obviously call it whatever I want, but call it that, and hit add chapter, and it goes ahead and generates, here's what the timestamp is when I paused it, and then the chapter name. And notice if I keep going, say I skimmed other spaces, it'll do the same thing. And another one, chapter, and notice it has it over here. And then when I'm done, I can just copy and paste everything that's over in that, and then bring it over to my video over here. Why are we copying and pasting? When I refresh the page, it will reset it. So let's just figure out real quick why this is doing this. Thank you. Create chapter, test. There we go. Yeah, so I just had some weird bug where it wouldn't let me copy, but yeah, and so then when I put it in, it will actually let me jump to 26 seconds if somebody clicks on that. So let's break down how this one works. So this one's a couple extensions, all right? This one is 3 different extensions. I have one to actually pop up that modal that lets me create the chapters and get the timestamp and set that. And then I have another one that shows the sidebar and actually returns an array of all of the different timestamps. And then I have one that when the page refreshes, it clears out the side panel. So let's start with creating the chapters, because that's kind of the most advanced one here. So first of all, you'll start by adding the quickbar brick to get started. And you can name your action title whatever you want. I called mine YouTube Create Chapters. This is what pops up when you do Command Q, or which, by the way, if you haven't configured it before, it will prompt you to set up what your shortcut is, and you can easily change it to be any keyboard shortcut you want. You can see I've configured it to be Command Q. But yeah, so we will do that and then name it whatever we want. And that's how when I'm over here and I type Command Q, it pops up the bar and it shows me that action right there. I only want this to happen on studio.youtube.com, but again, you can, specify that however you want. I don't really need any sort of icons or anything like that, so I'm leaving all of these as is. Next, I'm going to add the break called get shared page state. And no need to configure anything here except this output. I think it defaults to transformed, but I changed it to state just so I could quickly, reference whatever is going on here. But otherwise, you don't need to change anything in here. Next, you want to add the jQuery selector reader brick. And so what that's going to do is it's going to go grab the element that holds the timestamp info. And you can click around if you want, or you can just use this selector that I found that seems to work. You'll be able to copy and paste that if you want from the accompanying blog post with this. But that's what you want to use right there. And we're basically saying, hey, go grab that element. And then add the regex extractor brick. And once again, I just renamed the output T just to keep it a little bit simpler. But what you're basically saying is, hey, input, go look at that data.property. So basically what you just grabbed over here in the jQuery selector reader, and then do this regex on it to grab what we're looking for. And again, you can copy and paste this, but this is basically saying, hey, go look for what says time and grab the timestamp that's in the time tags. And then next, you'll add the show modal or sidebar form brick, and that pops up the modal that you saw where I can put in the chapter name. So super simple. It's just one field, name, chapter, label, name this chapter, describing it, single line of text. And then I change the submit button to say add chapter. Next, add the JQ JSON Processor brick. And once again, I renamed the output to something a little more clear. I called it state generator. And then for the filter, just copy and paste all of this, because basically what we're saying is like, hey, go parse all of this and say, we've got the time and here's a message, and the message is the form chapter. So you've got, whatever you need, go update that, create that object. And we're gonna do it from the state. And then we're going to actually grab one more brick called the set shared page state, grab that brick, and then basically we're going to send it what we just made, and go actually update the page state with it so we can reference it. So you want to add a property called times. Value is add state generator, which is what we just made over here. So call it whatever you want, but this needs to match whatever this says in the output. And then you don't need to change anything else here. And then lastly, add the show sidebar brick, which will pop up the sidebar on the side. So that's all we need for that. And now we need an extension that actually spits out the markdown in there. So that's not too hard to do at all. I promise if your head is spinning, this was the hardest one. Feel free to go back and pause and follow through the screenshots in the accompanying blog post to help you set it up, or comment if you're having any questions at all, because I'm happy to help. Next, create an extension. Just add the sidebar panel. That's your trigger this time, or your I keep saying trigger, but I guess it kind of is a trigger, but that's sort of your opening brick here. And you can call it whatever you want, set it on whatever sites you want. Make sure probably studio.youtube.com. Otherwise, it'll do it on, anywhere, any web page. And then you want to add the get shared page state brick. And that's just literally grabbing the page state, and then add the render markdown brick and use this code. Once again, you can copy and paste it from the accompanying blog post if you don't want to pause and type all this out. But what this will do is basically it goes and looks at the state, and then for every timestamp in there, go ahead and post it as markdown into here. So that's what's actually making it show up here. So yeah, it's actually pretty simple. I made this last one called clear markdown state just to actually clear that out when I refresh the page, so it doesn't just keep a running log of every timestamp I've ever created. And to do that, you just want to add a trigger input on, I set the trigger to page load and the sites to be, studio.youtube.com, and then add the set shared page state brick. And you don't need to customize anything here. You literally just need to add the brick, because basically we're saying, hey, go clear the state and get rid of anything that's in there. And that's it. So you've got your extension for creating the chapters, which basically says go get the page state, go get the element that has the timestamp, get the timestamp, get a chapter name by posting a modal, piece all of those together in a JSON object, and send that to the page state, and then pop up a sidebar. And then when you've popped up the sidebar, go ahead and get those timestamps from the state and post it in there. And then whenever you refresh the page, clear it out. So these are two PixieBrix extensions that I use as a YouTube creator and helps me save some time. And I hope they're useful for you as well. If you have any other ideas of you're like, hey, I'm a YouTube creator and I really wish I could make my life a little simpler here, let me know and I'll see. Maybe we can do something with PixieBrix and figure out some way to make things a little easier. Thanks.